Welcome back to CIA Declassified. We've talked about the drugs, we've talked about the psychics, but today we're leaving the soft science behind for something much more metallic. In the late 1950s, the CIA decided that the human mind was essentially just a biological computer. And if it's a computer, you can hack it. Enter MKUltra, Subproject 119. The goal, the electronic activation of the human organism. They didn't want to convince you to do something. They wanted to push the button and make you do it. Now, if you are a regular listener of the show, you know we have lots of episodes that are dedicated just to this sort of thing. My personal favorite is the episode that's about a bull that has been programmed remotely to stop when it is aggressive and charging somebody. But there are numerous episodes that deal with attempts to control via neurological implants different mammals. So definitely check those out. The agency didn't do this in a vacuum. They were inspired by the work of men like Dr. Jose Delgado, a Yale neurophysiologist who famously stopped a charging bull in its tracks using a remote control and a brain implant. Subproject 119 was established to review the feasibility of biotelemetry. The agency was looking for ways to monitor and control human beings from a distance using radio frequencies. They called it RHIC, Radio-Hypnotic Intra-Cerebral Control. A quote from a Declassified Subproject 119 summary: the purpose is to determine the feasibility of utilizing electronic techniques to influence the human organism, including the activation of specific behavioral patterns via remote electronic stimulation. End quote. The CIA funded research into stimulosievers. These were tiny electrodes implanted in the brain that could both record neural activity and broadcast emotions like intense fear, pleasure, or rage directly into the subject's consciousness. The agency studied bioelectric sensors that could be disguised as common items such as dental fillings or hearing aids to transmit the physiological state of a target or an operative back to Central Command Post. A quote from Dr. Jose Delgado: the individual may be controlled like a robot by push buttons. We are moving towards a psycho-civilized society where the brain is electronically regulated. End quote. Subproject 119 examined brain-to-computer interfaces decades before Silicon Valley. They wanted to know if a pilot could fly a plane or a spy could transmit a message using nothing but modulated brainwaves. Internal memos describe Project Pandora, a related study where the CIA investigated the effects of low-level microwave radiation on the human brain. There's an episode on that one too, fearing the Soviets were already using electronic mind control on the U.S. Embassy in Moscow. The CIA's Office of Research and Development attempted to create electronic dogs. We've got an episode on that one. Animals that could be steered via brain implants to carry out reconnaissance or delivery missions. Subproject 119 was the bridge to doing the same with humans. Researchers under Subproject 119 successfully mapped the pain centers of the thalamus, theorizing that a remote-controlled implant could be used to induce electronic torture that left no physical marks on the body. The program explored automatic hypnosis, where a radio signal would trigger a pre-programmed post-hypnotic suggestion, effectively waking up a sleeper agent with a burst of electromagnetic energy. Subproject 119 records show a deep fascination with sleep induction. The CIA wanted a way to broadcast a signal that would make an entire room or an entire guard tower fall into a deep slumber simultaneously. The agency's technical staff developed microbatteries made of radioactive isotopes to ensure that once an implant was in, it could stay powered for the life of the subject. One Declassified 1965 report mentions, quote, the use of sensory deprivation in conjunction with Subproject 119, end quote, suggesting the CIA was testing if electronic implants worked better when the subject's other senses were completely shut off in an isolation tank. The CIA consulted with the Atomic Energy Commission to develop a way to coat brain electrodes in gold to prevent the body from rejecting the foreign object during long-term implantation studies. A quote from CIA Director Richard Helms: In a 1963 memo, he stated, "We must explore every avenue of the electronic and chemical manipulation of the human mind, for if our enemies succeed first, we will have no defense," end quote. Subproject 119 researchers attempted to synchronize human brainwaves with flickering strobe lights, a process called photic, to see if they could induce epileptic seizures via a remote light signal. The budget for Subproject 119 included line items for primate housing, as many of the early tests for RHIC were conducted on monkeys to see if they could be made to attack each other on command. When you get to the human testing phase of Subproject 119, the black ink starts to flow like oil. The heaviest redactions appear in the clinical trials section from 1962. Speculation by former agency medical consultants suggests these pages detail the secret implantation of psychiatric patients without their consent. The theory is that the black bars hide the names of the hospitals and the disposable subjects used to test RHIC in the real world. Further speculation surrounds Project Soulcatcher. Conspiracy theorists believe the redacted sections cover the successful hardwiring of a foreign defector. The theory is that the CIA turned a high-level mole into a literal human radio, and the redactions hide the fact that he functioned as a remote-controlled spy for years. There's a persistent theory that the redactions hide satellite integration, strictly speculation, but some believe the CIA looked into using orbiting satellites to broadcast behavioral frequencies over entire cities. The blacked out text might describe the field test where they tried to influence the mood of a small town. Some speculate the redactions hide the lethal trigger. The theory holds that the CIA developed an implant that could induce a massive fatal heart attack via radio signal, and the bars hide the list of sudden deaths attributed to this tech. Conspiracy theorists often point to the genetic coding chapters. The speculation is that the CIA wanted to see if they could use electronic activation to turn on specific genes, effectively creating super soldiers on command. Finally, there is some speculation that the electronic activation wasn't just human to human. Some believe the CIA was trying to interface with what they believed were extraterrestrial biotech recovered from crash sites. The redactions hide the results of the first interspecies link. There is significant speculation that the radio-hypnotic research led to the voice-to-skull technology. The theory is that the redacted files contain the blueprints for broadcasting voices directly into a target's head, something the CIA has been able to do for decades, to make them think they were going insane or hearing the voice of God. A common conspiracy theory suggests that the electronic activation research was never shut down but moved to a blacker than black program. Speculation holds that the redactions hide the transition to nano implants that can be delivered via common vaccines. Some researchers speculate that the redacted Subproject 119 files hide the true cause of the Havana syndrome. The speculation is that these are modern-day iterations of the microwave control experiments documented in the 1960s logs. There is a theory that the puppet master circuit was used on a sitting world leader. Speculation suggests the redacted text describes a mission where an electronic trigger was used to make a dictator resign during a live broadcast. Finally, some speculate that the CIA discovered collective consciousness. The theory is that Subproject 119 found a way to link the brains of multiple subjects into a single hive mind for data processing, and the redactions hide the psychological horror that resulted from it. There is dark speculation that the Subproject 119 redactions hide the creation of a suicide pulse. The theory is that the CIA successfully tested a frequency that could overwhelm a person's survival instinct, forcing them to walk off a ledge or into traffic, a perfect untouchable assassination method. Some theorists speculate that the black bars in the 1968 logs covered the children's ward. Speculation suggests that because of a child's high neuroplasticity, the CIA experimented with implants in infants to see if they could grow up as hardwired assets from birth. A persistent conspiracy theory holds that the redactions hide a remote memory eraser. Speculation suggests the CIA found a way to use a sudden radio burst to wipe the short-term memory of a target, explaining away thousands of cases of missing time reported in the 1970s. There is speculation that the electronic activation files hide the origin of urban legends regarding dental fillings that receive radio stations. Speculation is that these weren't accidents but successful passive reception test for RHIC. Finally, some speculate that the redactions hide the final protocol, a failsafe that would detonate a small chemical charge inside the brain implant if the subject was ever captured by an enemy power. Was Subproject 119 a success? In terms of creating a remote-controlled human, no. The technology of the 1960s was too bulky and the human brain is too complex to be reduced to a simple on and off. However, as a foundational study, it was a terrifying success. It proved that neural activity could be influenced by radio waves, laying the groundwork for everything from modern neuroprosthetics to electronic warfare. A quote from an internal CIA evaluation in 1972. While the direct control of complex human behavior via electronic means remains elusive, the ability to induce specific emotional states and monitor physiological responses is well established. End quote. The Puppet Master circuit didn't just end in a filing cabinet. It led to breakthroughs that are still in play. Some of those breakthroughs include miniaturized telemetry. The need for small brain implants drove the development of high-density microcircuitry used in modern spy gear. Neural mapping. The CIA's brutal experiments provided some of the first functional maps of the human brain's emotional centers. Remote biomonitoring. The agency's work on long-range sensors led to tech used today to track the health and stress levels of high-value targets from a distance. And directed energy research. The study of microwave effects on the brain led directly to the development of non-lethal active denial systems used for crowd control today. MKUltra Subproject 119 is a reminder that the agency doesn't just want to know what you're thinking. They want to be the one who starts the thought. They wanted to turn the human soul into a circuit board. Thanks for listening. Be sure to tune in next time as we're going to be covering a ghost program of targeted assassinations against North Vietnamese officials. It was so off the books that when it was finally exposed, the agency leadership tried to erase every trace of it. We'll look at the sniper in the shadows and the mission that the CIA officially claims never happened. Join us for the disavowed blade. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.